on.
Good morning. This is Knox County Commissioners regular session on May 13th, 2025. First item on our agenda is to talk about how they're reducing the rates on, oh no, our course of renewal update with Michael Percy and Allie Redmond. So we're going to turn that over to you two, and if you just say your name once again, so those who are watching will be able to say, oh, I know that person.
Okay, so good morning. I am Allie Redmond, Membership Services with Corsa.
And I'm Michael Percy, owner of Griffin Insurance and agent for Corsa.
I think we maybe with having two new commissioners, just maybe wanted to get a feel for, do you know who we are? Maybe just a little background of who we are. So Corsa stands for County Risk Sharing Authority, government affiliate, so have to have an acronym in there somewhere, of course. So that's what Corsa stands for. We are your property and liability coverage for the county. And we have been around since 1987. We are a self-insured risk pool, which Knox County has been a member of since right at the beginning, right at 1987. So long-term relationship. The pool started in 1987 when commercial insurance was either unaffordable or unattainable for county government. And so that's kind of how we got started. Through CCAO, the leadership on that side thought, okay, how can we help our counties who are not going to be insured here pretty soon? And this again was back in 1987. And some really mindful people got together, some visionaries, and came up with the idea of a pool. As you can tell, it's worked well here in Ohio and for county government altogether, because we are a pool and then there's another smaller pool in Ohio, and then pretty much everybody else would be bigger, and so they're self-insured.
At what point, how many counties at this point?
So we have 73 out of the 88 counties. So very nice size pool, able to spread the risk. For a few years, we were really stable. The last 3 years, we have had it increase each year. But again, I think Michael can attest that even though we've had it increase, it's still well below market and what you would see in the marketplace. And so it's still a nice program for counties to be in.
And I would say a lot of the commercial lines and certain lines that you have are in that almost into that late 80s role where there's drastic increases, coverages are becoming unaffordable, and lines are being dropped. Just yesterday, a company's been on something for 15 years, no claims. They're like, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore. That's what I'm starting to see. The cycle is headed back to that. And so, of course, the stability and long-term approach to things has allowed to kind of soften some of those blows, especially law enforcement and cyber, which have been very challenging in the market. Corsa is well respected in the industry and has had the ability to continue to get reinsured when other entities have not. So that's part of what Corsa has really done and made those coverages still be affordable and available.
And Commissioner, this is the same as Setco, which is our health insurance, right? It's also a kind of a similar. The board is comprised of commissioners. That's who makes up the Corsa board is county commissioners from around the state. So obviously they have your best interest in mind when
And then they work with local agents because they want local representatives in the county that understand the county and know are kind of more boots on the ground. So some pools don't always work with a local agent. Of course, it has had I don't want to say a mandate, but a definitely, you have to live and work in the county because they want that representation to be.
Makes sense.
There for you. So that's what I do is I'm kind of the one keeping an ear out for things and trying to keep an eye on what's going on. And then I work closely with your staff to make sure we've got everything covered. So.
And at renewal time.
Yes.
He does the application for you. So that's something that your staff helps with, but it doesn't necessarily have to sit down and fill out then too. So no, we appreciate Michael and everything he does for the county and for we also, just since, part of our program and what has helped us in with our outside markets is the fact that we have, appraisals every 4 years. And, which is at no cost, no additional cost to the member. And then we also have, a very well put together toolbox of risk management services that we bring out to our members and that are available to our members and usually those are at no additional cost either. But those two items have really played a great role over the last couple of years in us going out and marketing our reinsurance piece of our coverage. And so I just kind of wanted to let you know that, we are, as Michael said, we are very well looked at and liked in the insurance market. And so I think we really bring a lot to the table for our members, but you as a whole bring a lot to us too. And we've been working well together over the last 38 years. I don't know, do my math, but 38 actually.
Yeah, and it's an audience participation type insurance. You talked about the toolbox.
Mhm.
And then I think it's September, August, September, we have a training session that we need to have a certain percentage of the officials there, and that helps keep our rates in a reasonable area.
It does, yes. That's part of the loss control incentive program. And your staff has done a phenomenal job ever since it was started probably 15 years ago, ballparking that. We just felt we needed to bring back some tools to our counties in the line of training, but it also brings back some credits to your invoice too. So it's kind of a win-win for everybody. But also by having those trainings, we're hoping that that will reduce your loss ratio, which you guys have a phenomenal loss ratio right at this point in time. We hate to talk about it, but yes, you do. And which also helps, yes, I know, but you really do. Which helps with your rating done this year too. But with that said, I do have to give kudos to the staff because there's some legwork to it, and we really appreciate all of your employees being a part of it and so forth too. I know we're going to get into this a little bit, but I might as well since I'm right here. I know that we have focused auto and cyber trainings over the last probably 4 or 5 years, maybe. And I know staff is just like, oh my gosh, another auto and cyber training. But our risk control staff, they sit down every year before they bring out the program and look at the losses throughout the pool. They will look individually at counties too, just in case there might be something trending within that member that maybe we need to bring out something separate, a different topic. But unfortunately, auto and cyber is just where the losses are. And, part of it, I feel too, yes. Do I get tired of the cyber phishing exercises and all that? Probably. But at the same time, at least it keeps me on my toes, like, maybe I shouldn't open all those emails that come flooding through either. And so it just kind of, I think, just builds that awareness a little bit too.
And I would say that the Knox County's IT team has done a great job in preparing and helping with the cyber, because you guys would really, once you added full-time staff, it really changed the whole perspective of the IT for you guys. It really did. So, and that's been a big help. And they've worked well with, of course, the IT team.
Yes.
And I would say here, commissioners too, we maybe are a little different, but obviously IT takes care of that cyber stuff. The loss control incentive that Ally's talking about is really, that piece is handled out of the HR office. To have them, once we brought county HR on, we have that kind of handled out there. And then the liability side, working with Michael, that's really handled out of the commissioner's office. And Robin does, a great job and really does the heavy lifting on that. She works with Michael on the renewal, handles all the, any new vehicles we have, the titles that make sure that stuff's insured, new vehicles being purchased, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of done by Robin in our office. and then the incentive stuff's done upstairs, so it is kind of parsed out a little bit. Some counties have an actual loss control position that handles some of that. We used to, when she retired, we kind of reallocated how that was done. So it is kind of piecemealed around a little bit, through the county.
But it works well.
Yes,
You
it
guys
works
got it
well.
going on. Yeah, working really well. Any questions so far? Or just pop in if you. So the document that Michael handed out, we put this together. This is focusing on this year's renewal. And there's some things specific to Knox County, which is at the top of the document. So the 2025 exposures. So where you have your total insured value, your payroll, your autos, deputies, and detainees listed there. I understand that commissioners know what they insure, but sometimes you maybe don't know the value that you insure. Of course, the pool is, we insure almost 17 billion, and we probably hit the 17 billion mark after this renewal in total insured values. That's huge. I mean, that's a huge program. So your values are listed here. And just in your piece, your total insured value is 201 million. I mean, it's nothing to sneeze at. So these items are listed because that is what our members are rated on. So when we go to do rates, that's what you're rated on. So just to give you an idea.
So the 201 million is this building, the jail, the buildings out at the fairgrounds, the engineers building, the dog shelter, the courthouse, the houses across the street. So, and then that's not including the vehicles, the the $100,000 plus trucks that our engineering has. So that's all that for the county.
We made a decision, I think
Yeah.
commissioners did a couple years ago, Michael, you'll maybe on this one, but we had to make a decision on which buildings we wanted to insure at replacement value and which ones basically at historical value. Right? And I think we, for Memorial Building and courthouse, are the only two that we kept that basically
Historical value.
right to actually potentially build them back at with the materials it would take to make them look like that.
A few years ago, the course along with determined, so we have reproduction value on those. So because those buildings are historical, it's going to cost a lot more to put them back. Than to build a new courthouse. It's going to cost you more to rebuild that one than to build a new one, because you can build something much less, pretty, yeah. And so we had to make a determination at the time, do we go with just replacement cost to rebuild a new courthouse, or do we do reproduction value to rebuild courthouse like you have? And so we looked at a number of buildings within the county, and the only two we went with was the Memorial Building and the courthouse.
And there was a premium to insure those at that price, or at that value too, because it would then be historic.
So I would take it your deputy and your detainees is an average.
Daily,
Correct.
yep.
Correct.
Yep, so they look
For
at
the
the
year.
average daily count essentially is, and that's the rate. The more detainees you have, the more likely you have, the larger your exposure.
Yeah.
So the more likely you are to have claims. Same with deputies. The more deputies you have on the road, the more deputies you have in the jail, the more likely you are to have a claim.
Any other questions so far?
Yeah.
All right.
You've done good.
Okay, so the 2024 annualized number of 275,000 compared to your 2025 renewal of 313,386. So these are the nets. And we use the word annualized under the 2024. Another nice piece of the Corsa program when it was started is the fact that, okay, so we are insuring counties. They do their budgets as of January 1, they come into effect. How do we intermittently charge a county when they, maybe buy some vehicles throughout the year, buy a property throughout the year? How do we do that? And then, would they have enough budget for that? Because a lot of times it's last minute that you're doing it. So one nice thing is we do not intermittently charge you any premium throughout the year. But in December, at the end of the year, we have to true up those numbers as if we did charge you. So you basically get, anything you've purchased throughout the year. Does it come in? I mean, it's on your statement of values or you're insured, but there's no additional premium. But to just compare apples to apples to that following year at renewal, we have to true up those numbers. So we can show a comparison of what
So
you
it's a carryover, not a additional annual
Yeah,
charge.
so just like when you add a car on your personal auto policy, you get another charge. We don't, of course, it doesn't actually charge you.
Until the
They-
following
They
year.
add it into the next.
We
year's.
just have to add it in though to that, those values back in.
Mhm.
Yes.
So what's the effective date of our premium?
So it is 5/1
Okay.
through 4/30. And everybody's always kind of like, why 5/1? Well, when the pool started, Adams County in Southern Ohio, they were one of the counties that were not going to be insured and they were not going to be able to get their autos insured. So no deputies, no, 911 there. I mean, there would have been no vehicles out on the road. So I'm talking like I was there. So when the pool started, they made it effective 5/1. So Adams County could have all of their deputies and vehicles out on the road and so forth. So that's kind of why we're on that 5/1.
And all the policies with course and all the members all have the same renewal date.
Mhm.
Because the way the program works is they work with the reinsurers on an annualized basis, so they can't have people at different times.
That is the poll.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are.
So do we pay this as a lump sum or do we pay it monthly?
Lump sum. Mhm. Yes, lump sum.
So we've already paid that?
Well, I don't.
You did, Your Honor.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you. That makes that conversation a little easier. So it's sold. And we appreciate that, getting that taken care of. So this year, pool wide, we saw a 12.07% increase. And so again, as Jason mentioned, we have 9 board of directors. They're all county commissioners also. So this was our third year. First year that we saw a big increase was 9.83. So that would have been 3 years ago. That was about 10% last year. And then we were at 12 this year. So the board was just kind of like, oh no, not 3 years in a row. Didn't really want to do that. But what I want to mention is we're going to kind of jump a minute just to that comparison chart in the middle of the page. So the last 5 years, if you look at the total loss fund, it's ticked up a little, but not too much. The admin fees have ticked up a little bit, but not too much. So the pool here in Ohio is doing phenomenal. Where we are seeing our increases is that total reinsurance. So when we go out to market for those higher limits, which we need to do, that's where we've seen the huge increase. So as you can tell from 2021, it was 4.7 million to this year it was 11.7.
So
It's a
the
huge
pool that we're in is what dictates our percentage increase by the year. Am I
Yes,
understanding
and
that?
so is the chart in the report, is the chart with the reinsurance, it's, I think that.
It partially impacts us, but then.
Yeah, but then the reinsurance that we're going out to buy,
Because you said 12 and ours is 13.58.
those don't relate.
Okay.
So
It's not, the one chart that we see every year is not in there.
not in that one.
So basically, force only covers the loss up to a certain amount.
Yeah, and so then they have to buy insurance above that, that's the reinsurance, so essentially Corsa maintains the first million. Of every loss, and then they buy insurance above that, so on certain lines of business, you may have 5, 10, 15 million, again, you have 201 in property, well. If something really bad were to happen, Corsa only pays for the first amount, and then they buy insurance for the rest. What's happened in the industry as a whole is reinsurance rates have gone up substantially.
Because you're going to the secondary source.
Secondary market, there
And
are
they're insuring
limited, yeah,
They're insuring the wildfires and all that's going on in the United
so you may have, I think it's like 1,500 companies do business in the state of Ohio, but there may only be 30 reinsurers. That insure all the insurance companies above that, so what happens is you get up here to the top and they have a lot more control, but they also have a lot bigger
loss potential.
Yeah, and so their rates have gone up dramatically, and that's impacted what you guys are really paying is those reinsurers. No,
Which is the hurricanes,
Yep.
the wildfires, all of those
Yes.
things that are going on,
Yeah.
impact the reinsurance
Yeah.
market.
yeah, and what's happened is over the last 5 years, the, I'll use the term convective
There you go.
storms.
Yes, yes.
Is the industry jargon. They like to use thunderstorms, tornadoes, windstorms, tornadoes. Those have really driven losses substantially. And so the reinsurance rates have had to go up to compete,
Sure.
be able to survive.
Mhm.
And so that has, and large liability claims, especially related to law enforcement, has driven reinsurance rates up a lot too, because you've had a lot of those large awards. And now medical abuse is what everybody's worried about, medical liability abuse, so people suing over medical issues. So those are all rolled into what you end up seeing as a whole.
Do all 77 counties that are in your pool, we're part of that? We're not part of a smaller group inside of that 77?
No.
Okay.
No, because the goal is to spread out the risk. And so everybody, some counties saw a larger increase based on, and part of your increase is based on your increase in exposures. And I think Ally will probably get that. I don't want to steal her thunder, but that's part of what you may see a 13.58% increase, but that's not all based on losses. Actually, your exposures have increased. And so overall, your actual rate increase is smaller than 13.58. That's a good chunk of that is your increase in exposure. You have more cars, more deputies, more value.
Do we, do all the 77 counties have the same deductible?
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah, we changed ours last
Last
year,
year.
we took it to $5,000, right?
You did,
Yeah, it was.
2,500,
2,500,
Yep.
yeah.
which is something else we're looking at. So this year, anybody who, last year, we made that offer. We gave everybody a chance if they were still at 2,500, because really 2,500, especially in this market, even 5,000 in this market, on 201 million in TIV, you would not get a $5,000 deductible. It'd be more like 10, 25,000 probably. So last year, excuse me, we laid the groundwork that we thought, and it's just a help rating too. But maybe anybody that was still at the 2,500, we gave the option last year, if you wanted to save a little bit on your premium, we go ahead and bump you up to the 5,000, laying the groundwork that it was gonna take effect this year, and that's what has happened. So,
Percentage after deductible? Is there 180,
For
20?
co-insurance, no. No, there's no reason for a co-insurance because of the reevaluations of the values every 4 years. We don't have to worry. You're insured to 100%.
100%.
So we're not worried about whether you're keeping up. I mean, the whole point of co-insurance is to prevent someone from underinsuring.
Yes.
Of course, it does the valuations, and I will say the company that they're using, I have another public entity that had a different company, the company that you guys used to use to do evaluation, and they had to switch to the company you guys use because it was so wildly inaccurate.
Really?
it wasn't the other way.
Yeah, it was really bad, off by like $20 million.
Oh, ouch. Okay.
Didn't have the buildings right, didn't have anything right. So the firm they're using is very good at the valuations, and it's been, so we know that and are comfortable with the values that you have on your buildings, that you're insured properly.
Okay.
And actually, that helped with our reinsurance last year, because they were thinking maybe, we were thinking maybe 25% just increase on reinsurance last year. But then in talking with the reinsurance market, they were realizing that we did have a schedule of appraisals, and it's every 4 years. So they were very comfortable with our values. And so they were like, because that helped, so it brought it down to 17%. But at the same time, they were also talking about adding as you said, a co-insurance, and they took that off the plate right away because it was like,
Good.
okay, no, we're comfortable with what's going on here. So it did help. I would like to mention the credits that you received on your invoice. So there was $40,797 in credits. Two pieces come into play there. the loss control and sign program, which we talked about, but that was $9,909 that came back to the county off your invoice. You received 100% on the loss control and sound program, but also maintained or received the bonus piece too, which was great because just kudos to you for doing that. Then the other piece was the dividend, the $30,888, and that was just being who you are, being a member of Corsa, being in the program. There's a formula to that. There's always a formula to everything, but how long you've been in the program, how much you've paid into the loss fund, and so forth. And so, but still $30,000 that came back.
At the end of the year, they're looking at their gains and losses and then spreading that difference out basically.
We have, yes, we have returned 2.4 million back to our members. Probably it started out at lower amounts and then it's worked up to 2.4, but it's probably been 2.4, probably 10 years at least, if not a little bit longer than that. And that's one area that the board of directors do look at to maybe increase that a little bit. But over the last couple of years, they've kind of put money into more of the loss, the law enforcement piece and cyber, because again, those are just where we're seeing things head.
They're trying to get you to, and I know that Knox County has taken a big advantage of some of the, don't you have the scanner, the body scanner, and a couple of other things. Of course, has contributed towards the purchase of those so that you guys can be safer. And so that was the body scanning, was something that they're very, very much on. I think body cams was another couple of years ago. I think they assisted on. And so those are different things. Of course, it wants you guys to be, your law enforcement to be safe. So they add things and incentives.
And we have them outlined here for you at the bottom of the page, some of our reimbursement programs. Just so the commissioners are aware of what we have available. That way, if you're talking with the sheriff or deputy and they're talking about purchasing something or, just say, hey, let's check with Corsa and see what they have available as far as reimbursements. Again, we have our loss control gentlemen who are two former deputies. One's a former sheriff out of Warren County. They're very well versed in, the sheriff's departments and so forth. And so they meet with the sheriffs, if not just annually, biannually, whatever they need to do to help with anything in those areas as far as risk management.
They've already been out a couple times, I believe, just to meet with that new sheriff and his staff to make sure that he knows what they have available to them.
So people or employers are actually doing polygraphs
For
Law
law
enforcement.
for law for, okay.
law
Yeah,
enforcement.
enforcement.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. what that was
Polygraphs
something-
and
Yeah, but-
psychological evaluations are very common in law enforcement.
Should be for commissioners.
Yeah. We're in high risk.
And while we're down at the bottom of the page here, we'll just, over to the left is cybersecurity. We have a reimbursement program of $5,500 per member. So anything IT related, please submit. All you have to do is submit a copy of the invoice and the pay voucher, and we will reimburse the county $5,500. And it could even be just, if you do an anti-phishing software, you did it last year, you can do it again this year. Because we're still.
Just stepped in.
Yeah.
Was that what we paid through that? or-
Duo or no before we've done.
So it's available again this year, so
Okay.
please, I know you did it last year, but please, anything you wanna submit in that area would be fine.
Our renewal is next month for no before, so. I'll be
Okay, there you go.
using it for that.
Great, yes. One other piece that came out of looking at working with the carriers this year is John Brownlee, our managing director, was able to enhance our coverage for cyber. Before we had 1 million in coverage per member, but ransom was sub-limited to 50,000. Well, all of us sitting here know that we wish ransom would only be 50,000, but that is not the case. And but that's just all we could offer at that point.
You're missing a couple zeros there.
We are, and we understood that, we did. So, like I said, this year we're able to bring out 2 million per member. It is an aggregate. But ransom falls under that. So that gives you a little bit more wiggle room. Hopefully, we never have to have the discussion whether you need to use it or not, but at least hopefully that gives everybody just a little bit of relief that, okay, there's a little bit more coverage there. Trying to think.
Piece of exposure does.
Yes.
Might be helpful. Yeah.
Yes, so when Michael was talking about, yes, you had a 13.58% increase this year. The average at the pool was 12.07, but again, part of that, I mean, there's a lot of moving pieces to it. The reinsurance is a piece of that. Your loss ratio, which I said was phenomenal, or is phenomenal, I should say, that's a piece of it, so that helped a lot. But your exposures did increase this year. Property from last year went up 6.8 million. So and now our property rate is really low. So
You're talking about the appraised value of the property rate?
so the years that you're not appraised, we trend.
Okay.
So I think it was you know what the trend rate was this
Is it
year?
8?
Maybe somewhere there.
8%.
I was gonna say 6, 8, somewhere there, yeah. So the years that you are not appraised, we do trend each year, just to try to keep values, up to date. Plus, if we did it every 4 years, give you that increase every 4 years.
Yeah.
You're shot with the system, yeah.
Conversation, yeah, you guys with us, because you'd be like, what in the world? So we do trend each year just to kind of keep values up to date and so forth. So that would just be in your trending. The one place you did have a little uptick in your deputies, detainees a little bit too, but the autos, 28 autos this year. So that's a jump. Now, we do have a good rate for our autos. Do you know what it is this year? 300 and
It's low per vehicle.
It is low.
it's very low per vehicle. Yeah.
Well, 668.
So we had a larger pool of autos this
Mhm.
year. What
You
was
did.
that
So,
from, Jason?
Previously it was 194 and that was, or it is 194. It went up by 28, so previous year was 100.
We have to look, I
67.
think the engineer got some new vehicles. We did do that pull ahead on the sheriff's vehicles. We bought extra
one of
vehicles
those,
last year
yes.
instead of buying them this year.
Which was probably a really good move, yeah.
Well, price.
Yeah,
And we did a pull ahead on those, no. Transit got anything, we'd have
Yeah,
to
they
look
cut
at that.
transit got
Jeff,
new
Jeff got a new vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so those all, the number of, the increase in vehicles definitely pushed the rate up, so what you're, by looking at that 13%, part of that is you increased your auto fleet by, 10% and
Yeah.
12% is your auto fleet increase, so that all impacts that. So,
that was probably the
Yeah.
biggest area of increase.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, other than that, I mean, again, you guys are phenomenal at what you do here. Your staff's great. Everybody, is on board with the program and the risk management services. So we appreciate everything you do, and it shows that you're.
Phenomenal, phenomenal at that 12%, not 3.
Okay. Next.
Don't buy cars.
Next year, hopefully I can come back and say.
yeah, we all hope that
Yeah.
I would love to come back next year and say, when did 12%?
Yeah.
Me
right.
too.
But we're
Still
building
best on that.
Yeah.
building a swine barn, so.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes,
Um,
that's coming up.
Yes. Just for a little history, we were pretty much, our rates were flat, maybe 2% increases here and there for about 12 years. And then the last 3 years, we just, we're still at 10%, but really, as Michael said, 10% is still really good in this market, 10 to 12.
I seen another public entity pool that doesn't do counties have close to a 20.
Oh, gee.
So that'll give you an idea, and they're a very successful pool as well in the state, and they 20s because their reinsurance numbers were much higher than yours because they're well respected, but not as well respected as Corsa is
Right.
in going to the reinsurance market. So,
And just to lay the groundwork for next year, our board of directors are looking at, so last year, they started thinking, okay, if we see another increase, what can we do? I mean, I just don't want you guys to think, we're just sitting here watching things tick up without trying to do something. So the board of directors and John Brownlee talked last year, to see what we could do since the pool here in Ohio is doing well, and this is really just reflection of the reinsurance and what's going on across the United States. So, which we don't really have any control over. So they're thinking about, the pool retaining a little bit more. And basically what they're thinking is a captive. We're gonna maybe start a captive, so we'll retain a little bit more on our end. So maybe we're going out to buy 6 million in excess layers, but now we'd only maybe have to go buy 3 million. So we still might have to go out to that reinsurance market, but it won't be on a huge amount. And so we would be retaining a little bit more on our end, but our actuaries have looked at it and they think we're very stable and can do that. And being county commissioners themselves, our board of directors are not gonna do anything that's gonna be detrimental to the pool or our members. But just so you know that they are looking at something to try to maybe, flatten out these increases going forward.
That's good. Appreciate that.
Mhm.
Well, thank you for
Yes.
coming in.
Thank you for seeing us, and
Appreciate it.
anybody else have any questions?
Questions, yeah?
Okay, well, you do, Jason has been around a long time, he can probably answer them, but if not, Michael or myself. and
Robin.
Robin, yeah.
And then when I get the email from Robin, I'll reply, right?
Up the chain.
Yeah.
That's what you learn.
Yeah.
No. Well, we appreciate your time
Thank you.
today.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you. Yes, it was nice meeting you. Here.
Michael, good to see you.
Good to see you, Barry. Good to see you again, Bill.
Good, sir. Valley, nice to see you.
Yes, nice to see you again. Yes.
Nice to meet you.
You guys have a good day. Try to stay dry. Got some-
Yeah, yeah. Keep some mushrooms.
Sorry.
Nice to meet you.
It was nice to meet you too. Take care.
A good one. Fun tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
killing
thank
trees. I
you. Yeah.
didn't get it to penny in time. I
Ouch.
took a day off, so,
Good for you.
it happens sometimes. I was allowed to,
Hopefully take care of your wife for Mother's Day, right?
yeah. So would after that meeting be a bad time to ask for a vehicle for IT?
Have one. It's called the Gold Escape.
That we pretty much all use the Gold Escape, yeah. All right.
Yeah, so now we have Kyle Webb with us for our IT update. So welcome, Kyle.
Thank you. So projects completed since last report. Not a ton, a couple of big items that we knocked off. The first one is the server that handles the main line of business software for the treasurer's office, and the auditor's office also uses it. It's called MVP, but it needed migrated to a new server. We had started that process last year. Middle of last year. We're kind of waiting on the vendor to work with us. It is fully moved over now. We worked out all the kinks with the mapping software and all the little things that connect to it, but that's finally live and we're happy to have that off of our plate. It's been kind of hanging over our heads for about 2 years now.
Now, there's a rumor going around that the FAA is going to ask you and your crew to help get all that organized. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're gonna start going into the control towers and replacing all
Yeah,
their
yeah.
ancient equipment. Yeah, well, can't be much worse than some of the stuff I've replaced. Another big item that we've talked about forever was the access control system that has been replaced. We've got All the new cards and everything programmed into the new system. We're still working out, various kinks there, but a big part of it was we wanted to start over. A lot of stuff that was in there from years past, we weren't sure exactly what it did. So we just kind of started fresh. And if there's issues, we'll work them out as opposed to just copying and pasting from the old system. So we're trying to restructure how all that works. And it seems like JFS is happy with the reporting they're getting.
Good.
So that was another big part of it that we're happy about. We fixed an issue with the security system with the radio broadcasting. I worked with the company last week and they had to replace a couple components and that seems to be working fine. Tested it with 911. A lot of ongoing projects we've made some progress on. Trevor's been working hard on installing the new 911 machines. It's been on our list for a while. It's just very time consuming. They have so much software down there and we can only do kind of a station at a time whenever there aren't 5 dispatchers down there. So coordinating and everything, it takes a lot of time and effort. So Trevor's been working on that and I think we've pretty much got the first system good. And once we kind of have that base one, we'll kind of know where all the issues were. And then the other 4 should go relatively quickly. Ongoing computer replacements. I'd like to say that we're making progress, but various departments keep ordering more. And so we have got a priority list and the priority list just keeps getting longer without much coming off of it, unfortunately, but we're making progress. Some things a little more time sensitive than others, so we've had to move some stuff around. I know the big one right now is a city's itching to get some new equipment installed at Hiawatha so they can train their staff for opening the water park. So that's currently on our list as well. But we're making progress. We're working through it. Just slow going sometimes. We are looking at a software which you guys signed an addendum for the agreement to help us deploy those a little bit faster. So we're looking at that. Addressing power outage. I've got a quote on some equipment, kind of battery backup units that are located at the server level. Right now, we've got the main battery backup that runs off the 911, but when Spring Electric came in and looked at it, they suggested that even with the big unit, we maybe should have some smaller units in case there's a mild delay in between that system coming online. So I've got some quotes on that I'll work with Jason on.
So they would, for like downstairs in the 911, so we'd have a smaller battery pack unit right there.
Yeah, so we've got the big battery backup that runs 911, the main server room. We're getting the new server room, a couple outlets more moved to that. But their suggestion was in case there was an issue with that or it took an extra second or something to come on, those servers are very sensitive to any power fluctuations. So their suggestion was to have one that's installed in the tower racks for the servers that would keep the servers on while the generator's kicking on or while the battery backup's kicking on, kind of an in-between. And that would help in case there was an issue with the battery backup system, like it didn't kick on or it had a fault, or it would just protect our systems, especially with some of the new IT equipment, especially on the storage side. It's very very fragile when it comes to power. There's actually a whole routine. It's a 20-minute process for shutting it down. And that's just to make sure that when people are working on a server, if they're in the middle of sending something data to it and it lost power, the whole idea is that data can still get written and it can get safely shut down, as opposed to if power cuts off right in the middle of that, it could corrupt databases and cause all kinds of issues and make the recovery process take a long time. So we're trying to look at ways to protect that kind of information.
So right now, our battery backup, could be, if it happened a second, you could still have the computers at dispatch go down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
and they'll turn back on and lights like that, that's as, but the servers going down, those could take, 30 minutes to turn back on, and that's if nothing goes wrong in the process. So
Right.
we want to just kind of do whatever we can to alleviate those types of issues. We have posted, we've got a lot of resumes in for the network and security administrator job. Jared's last day will be this Friday. So we're gonna have a little reception up there for him on Friday. So 2 to 4, Mallory's gonna send out an email. We're gonna have a cake or something for him. But
I know the sheriff's office is
Oh,
very
I went out
strong.
and did a walkthrough with Jared this morning at the sheriff's office, and every single person made some kind of comment about, oh, look, here comes the quitter. No, they give him a good hard time, but he gives it right. He's got a good relationship with them, and they really like him, and he likes it out there too. But he is he's well liked across the county.
Job for us.
Yeah, you did a great job. So we're going to be setting up some interviews for his position. City phone system, we've been working on that. We've got a lot of things in place, but a lot of it we took over from ECR, Dynamic Networks, the company that originally sold that system to the city. We kind of the ones that ended up having to fully install it and get it working operational. And we did so with the equipment they had. I wouldn't say it was done in the best way. So we're in the process of kind of reorganizing it in a more stable situation for them, so they have less issues with
So
it.
it's ECR equipment, that's aged then, unless something different.
Yeah, I mean that
That
equipment.
goes back a long ways, ECR.
Well, 4 years, 3
Oh,
years.
is that all? It seemed
Yeah.
like ECR was gone.
No,
Right.
3, 4 years. They were renamed to Dynamic Networks at some point, so I think that might be part of that. But yeah, some of that equipment needed to replace. So when the city ordered all those computers, we ordered some extra to replace some of the equipment that runs their phone system. So we're looking at providing a lot better service for them. So we've been working on that last week. That was a big push that I wanted to do, because some of it requires some of the networking aspects that we wanted to have Jared, knock out before he left. So that's in progress, and we've been testing that. We met with the city service safety director, Tanner, on talking through the IT agreement, a renewal for 2026. So I think we've got a pretty good agreement worked out, and we're going to send it over to have the city review.
Yeah, the contract was originally done by them, so we kind of just went through the new parameters with Tanner. And then Kyle's gonna send it back and let the city law director update that contract, and then we'll get the chip to review. But in fact, there wasn't too many things really, but I think we've got a good framework for another 3-year contract.
The city website updates, there was some mention at the last department head meeting with the city that they're looking to bring Andrew back in, maybe to do another batch of updates for them. So that's on the list. Clerk reports, it's the same situation as the auditor treasurers and their vendor. We're waiting on the vendor for 3 weeks. We've had everything exactly the way we've been waiting longer than that, but the last 3 weeks we've had everything ironed out. We've been emailing them, asking them, when are we going to move? When are we going to move? We haven't heard anything. So that's currently in progress to be announced. Usually it's one of those things of hurry up and wait, and then you'll get an email that says, hey, tomorrow morning we're going live. Okay, I guess we're glad we're ready for it. That's usually how those things kind of go, fortunately. We've got upgrades of existing computer hardware, so we bought some extra equipment and things. So computers that are kind of midway through their life cycle, if we're getting issues with them not being as fast or needing an upgrade, we've got the equipment to kind of update them and get them through their 5-year life cycle. Continuing to destroy old hard drives and data that from old computers and things that have been sitting around for 10+ years in some cases, that are way outside any kind of record retention. Continued updates, security monitoring, obviously that's always an ongoing thing. Life-size camera replacement. We kind of set that off a little bit. The sheriff's office, well, public defender was the one that reported it. They were having issues with the life-size system. We went out there and it ended up mostly just being, I think, user error for the most part. So we did some remedial training on that system and how it works. And I think we're good right now. We still want to move that over eventually to like a Zoom system or something different than the life size, since it's a kind of a closed off proprietary system. And then sheriff's office fax updates. I met with Horizon, now they're called Glow Fiber. They've gone through a couple name changes. And they were talking about other fiber services that they offer in the area. And one of the things they talked about was a like a telephone service. Basically, it comes over a fiber line, but they put a device inside that basically acts as if it were an analog phone system. So that might be a good way to get the sheriff's office off those old telephone lines onto another service that's just as reliable, which fiber optics is, they're very reliable unless someone takes out a pole but you would have that with a phone line the same way. So I'm in some talks with them to see what that would cost and do a cost comparison between what they're paying now to what that would cost. But other than that, the only thing I have to report is I want to thank the county. You guys have helped me through my master's degree and had some employee assistance. I'm finished all my classes and I walk on June 1st.
Will you get
Cybersecurity, so
In cybersecurity, which we were
Yeah.
just talking with Corsa about.
Yeah. So I'm glad to have that by me, but I appreciate the county's assistance and being able to do that. And look forward to using my newfound skill sets for the county's good. But they actually, I don't know what they're getting into, but they selected me to be the commencement speaker at Franklin too. So I get to talk there. That'll be interesting. But
Yeah, we'll be able to live stream.
yes, yeah, you'll be able to live stream it and everything. So we'll see how that turns out.
Good.
I'll know what they agreed to.
I know that a couple months ago, there were like 50 computers coming in for the city. Are you done with all those? Or
No, those are on the list of, we've been knocking them out as fast as we can. But like I said, they keep ordering more. Some of our departments order more, and so we've probably gotten through most. We're over halfway through that 50, but we've added a lot behind those. So
Okay.
we're still making progress, but
It's a vicious cycle.
it is. It
That's
really
a lot
is.
one time.
Yeah.
We're, I think,
Yeah.
or that too, are like, that's a lot of computers at once.
Yeah, and it's difficult to, if everyone used the same software every day, so you only had to install the same 3 applications, you could make that, it would take, a week, to do that. But every department has different software and different settings and a different workflow. And so each one is a brand new thing, especially for the city. You get small departments and they have their specialized software and you get one set up and you might install 2 computers there. Well, then you go to a different department and they've got something completely different and you got to start over. So it just takes a lot longer to do those kinds of deployments. One of the things we're looking at is a software where we have an image that's built out for, say, the auditor's office, the treasurer's office, all these different offices that has all their software on it. And then we bring a new computer in, we load that image onto it, update, to whatever's happened since that last was done, and then we can install it. And it would save us a lot of time. So we're trying out a couple of different software, getting some quotes on. It would save us a lot of man hours for sure. So.
Well, I was curious because I knew that it was like 50.
I think they got some ARPA money. Cheryl probably knows. I think it was maybe.
Yeah, it was ARPA. They were using up the last of the ARPA money. Yeah.
That's why there were so many brought at once.
Yeah, so we knocked out. And another thing that hurts is in October, Windows 10 is end of life. So we have to move to Windows 11. And unlike previous releases of Windows, this one you have to have over a certain age of processor. So it has to be an Intel, version 8 or newer. Well, so anything less than that, it cannot install Windows 11 on. So we're forced to replace those.
What a great gimmick they came.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so a lot, those 54 or whatever were all computers at the city that could not be upgraded. They had others that probably should be updated, but they could still pass for at least another year. So we just focused on the ones that absolutely had to be replaced.
So those of us at home who still use our computer that we bought in 2010,
Probably needs to be upgraded. Or, most people, what they do at home, your online banking, email, those kinds of things can all be done from a Chromebook and or a cheaper laptop. I like Chromebooks for personal use. If you're not doing anything too crazy, if you want something higher end, you can go with a MacBook. But that's kind of what I would suggest for the home user. But especially Chromebooks, you can pick them up for $200-300. You don't have to worry as much about the viruses and things that you do with like a Windows machine, and they generally meet the purposes of most home users.
So my PC, you don't even use the word PC. So
Yeah,
my IBM type.
your mainframe at home, probably needs to be replaced. But
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Yes.
Congratulations on your daughter.
Thank you.
Good job.
Okay, yes. So we'll be moving to where we'll have Mayor Matt Starr and
Hello.
President of ADF, Sam Felkins with us. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
Jason had to do a few things there before he comes back in, but you came in on Friday and delivered paperwork and left and ghosted us until today.
Did you remember it all, Bill?
Yeah, I remember.
Good.
Well, actually, I pulled out my book that went to a conference, I think it was last year, and in which I had all that information in there. So I reread it and actually I had studied a little bit about the tax incentive scenario world, which you're going to define so that those people who are watching right now, when they hear you explain TIFs, they will say to their neighbors, I can tell you about TIFs and how they work. And if you have any questions, you can call Sam and Matt Starr, but I already know the answer.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you can call the three of us, any of us.
Yeah, that's
If
right.
you're the expert, I'll let you.
Yeah, I just hand them the book and say,
Handy.
here you go, the 80 pages worth that you can read about it.
Yeah.
Even though they have it in there for like 6 pages, but I'll turn the floor over to you. I'm not
So
sure
we
how
need to
long.
wait for Jason.
Well, I don't know how long he's gonna
You
be.
can roll.
Okay, all right, very good. Yeah, we're recording, so.
Yes.
It's good. Well, anyway, thank you all for meeting with us. Sorry for the miscommunication last week. For some reason, I thought that I understood Jason put us down for 11 o'clock on Friday and not 11 o'clock on Thursday, and I was in Columbus that day all day, so I couldn't be here. But anyway, thanks for agreeing to meet with us, Commissioner Purcell, for just to get the paperwork started. This is almost, I think, an immediate playbook right out of our newly adopted comprehensive plan, which is kind of exciting because we're enlisting these economic development tools that will help build housing, keep housing costs down, and protect the taxpayer for assuming any of that the growth costs that are associated with that, particularly with the infrastructure. The infrastructure, the roads, the stormwater, the water lines, sewer lines, and even sidewalks, and for that matter as well. So anyway, we needed to let you all know before we started talking about it at council, which we did discuss last night. It was on council's agenda with regard to the TIFs, and also the other economic tool was the NCA, or the New Community Authority. You may remember when we had our joint meeting for the comprehensive plan with Jeff Fix, Commissioner for Fairfield County, who was there, who was saying you really need to be taking advantage of these economic development tools to offset the costs And so, we were planning on doing that, and it was nice to hear that confirming message from Commissioner Fix as well, to again, offset the costs so that we're protecting the city. We're also protecting the taxpayers from absorbing any additional money that is going to be spent in developing that, and keeping the cost of housing down. And so I think probably the greatest analogy that you hit it right on that when you were talking about the cars, the new
Yeah.
cars. Can you explain that?
Sure. So why is growth good for folks and why is adding new housing good for affordability? Well, a new car will always cost more than an old car, right? So new housing is always going to be more expensive than older housing. That's just the way it is. And but as we saw in the pandemic, when they stopped making new cars, used car prices went through the roof, right? So if you don't add new housing, the existing housing is going to continue to get more and more expensive. So the only way to address affordability is to add housing and to help on the back end to make it affordable to build that housing whenever possible. So by using a TIF, so currently, and
Go right ahead.
Go right.
Go right
So
into it.
currently the land that we're talking about is Liberty Crossing. It's 109 acres. If I read the auditor site correctly, currently it produces about $2,800 in taxes a year.
And this is off of Newark Road in
Off
case some people don't
Yes.
know where Liberty.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, great.
Across from the old Mount Vernon bottled gas, that area.
Yeah, Green Reds Press and all those.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
so it produces a modest amount of property tax, but not much. Obviously, building about 500 houses.
460-ish.
Yeah. Total, that property value is gonna go up significantly. We're gonna create a lot more property taxes for the schools, for all of the folks that you all divvy up property taxes to as well. But that can't happen unless they build it. And the only way they can build it is if they know they can sell it. And to make it affordable, right now, I think it's at least $1,500 a linear foot to build a road with all the utilities and everything. So if the developer had to take the risk and go out of pocket to build out all that infrastructure, they're gonna wanna sell those lots for a lot of money. And then they're gonna pass that on to the consumer. And those lots are gonna be very expensive homes, unaffordable for most in the community. So,
Which permeates and as a residual effect on neighboring.
yeah.
So
added
I
properties.
want to back up from that. You said that new houses builds will slow the pace of an older home. Is that what your
It'll-
concept is?
It'll keep the older home more affordable because of
Okay.
competition.
Because depending on the
Kind of-
price of the new home, that could also raise the price of the older home, right?
It could.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, absolutely. I mean, if a new home's 600,000 and you have an old home that at one time was worth 300, it's probably gonna go up more because the new home was more.
As long as our demand is as high as it is.
Right.
But ideally, we'll start to get ahead of demand. And we're not building out of a hole right
Out
now.
of the deep side. okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're digging out of a hole right now.
So this crossing, what's the average, does anybody project the average cost of the new home there?
So one of the nice things about this, sorry, is that this
It would
is
be a
the,
combined neighborhood, so to speak, from what. I mean,
it is, it's
Mixed
a,
use.
Yeah.
so it has multifamily, so it's got rentals. It has townhouses, it has single family homes and patio homes.
That's what I thought.
So each of those will be at a different price point
Yeah.
to make it approachable for those folks. The idea being that you can age within that community and never have to say bye to your neighbor,
Neighborly. yeah.
right? So it works out really well in the comprehensive plan. It talks about adding a diverse amount of housing options and trying to make them affordable. So that's what we're trying to do today. So the way the TIF works is currently, and I should have you tell it.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, that's the good part.
You might want to explain what TIF actually means.
Yeah, so it's a tax increment financing. So currently, like I said, that lot is about $2,800 in taxes. Once we add housing to it, the taxes are gonna go up. What a TIF does is it locks in the current tax amount, and that new increased value for a period of 30 years gets put into a separate fund to help offset some of the costs for infrastructure just for that area. Now we're holding the schools harmless, so they will still get their new taxes. But the other folks that will be not getting taxes for this period, which are most of the folks that you all work with, currently are not getting a ton anyway from this lot. And the idea is that it's an investment, that in year 31, they're gonna get a lot of taxes from this that they would not have gotten otherwise if it wasn't built. And so what, from a developer side, what they can do is they can estimate what that tax growth is gonna be, what that's gonna kick out to help build turn lanes and those kind of things. And they can bond against that. So they can borrow against those future earnings to help offset their initial cost and outlay of money. So why is this good? What we don't want is a development that builds part of a road, tries to sell those houses, hopes to make enough money to build the next part of the road, then build those houses. And then if they don't, then you just have a road to nowhere and it stops and the whole development dies. By doing the combination of the TIF and the NCA, and NCA is essentially a superpowered homeowners association where they can they're opting to add additional millage to the lots within that land to help pay for the infrastructure. By doing that, the developer can bond it and get the money to build out all their infrastructure at once. So all the roads and everything will be built at one time.
When it's cheaper.
When it's cheaper, and they know it'll be done. And so then they've made that investment. So then they're not trying to sell bits of road based on house sales. So that's kind of the overarching.
So the millage will be in that residential area only.
Correct.
Yes. Correct.
And that will help. The reason what I was gonna ask is you're avoiding tax dollars. But with growth, you need infrastructure, I mean, police, workers.
Yeah, this
that
is
type
gonna,
of thing. So
so
the millage is gonna help support.
Sales tax.
yeah, sales tax. There's gonna be a lot of sales tax generated from this development.
Right.
And we did share, I'll get back to your question. We did share this economic impact study with Commissioner Purcell as well, so you can see what the breakdown is in terms of yearly construction, and then when it's all fully operational, just what kind of revenue streams it's gonna have to the community. It's really quite impressive just from this. Now, back to your question or your point about the difference between the TIF and the NCA. The TIF funds can only be used for that district, whereas the NCA, we can put a little bit more into, say, our new courthouse, for example, or we have a lot more flexibility.
Sure.
Obviously, we would like to get a third water tower on that in town as well to help with all the growth and serve as a backup system to the industrial park.
And will you define NCA?
Oh, yes, thank you. New Community Authority
Okay.
is another tool that is again additional millage on top of the property tax that is limited to that district, that defined district, which council has took action in defining that overlay at that 100 and I think it's 104 acres. I think it's 104, whatever that acreage is.
So the owner opted in.
Yes.
To that. So they self-selected to add an extra millage on. So by adding the NCA, what we're trying to do here is say that growth is going to help pay for growth.
Yeah.
We are going to need more police officers. We're going to need a new fire station. We're going to need a water tower. Those things happen and are somewhat just naturally needed to happen because of growth, just general internal growth. But adding in this many houses on the south side will speed up some of that need. And we don't want every other taxpayer to have to pay because of those increased expenses. So
What are they projecting the end date of this thing? Any end date?
28, I think.
Oh, really? It's that fast?
28. Yeah, well, yeah.
because of the model is multiple different housing types, they're gonna have multiple different builders building at the same time, as opposed to one builder
Pretty
doing
quick.
Yes.
piece by piece.
They're moving earth right now. mean,
Yeah, I
putting
saw that.
roads
They
in.
live, they're right up the street from where I live.
Yeah. And so we will have a public hearing on June 23rd, I believe is the date we set that advertisement since council approved the NCA. We are or the NCA accepting the land is going to absorb that land. We will be advertising that in One of the newspapers, I cannot remember which one it is yet. I know Todd took care of that, so.
Right.
There's plenty of time for people to be able to comment
So when you say the owner accepted the NCA, that would be the developer and the property owner, and that would be passed on to the consumer
Yeah.
as they buy, correct? Okay.
Gotta be on their deed.
For the next 30 years. 31
No,
or what?
no, the NCA is, once they've paid off what they want, they could roll that back.
Okay.
It's up to the NCA board to decide whether or not they want to continue to.
So
have
it
that
could
go.
end sooner than 30 or 31
Correct.
years.
Yeah, that does not have a timeline.
At the beginning, you mentioned sidewalks.
Yes.
Is there any plan to have sidewalks from that development come all the way down to the sidewalks? It's down by the Park National Bank.
Yeah, we want to have that happen. We would like to be able to keep that as a walkable area. I know we'd be working with well, that'd be Clinton Township right now. And
Yes.
and so, you know, having a sidewalk would, we also have some residents on, is it Southgate? Southgate?
Or Southbridge.
It's Southridge, yeah, who would like to walk to work. They live up there and would like the opportunity to walk. And so that's, you know, we're looking at that too. So yeah, sidewalks are a very important part of the infrastructure and related to our strategic plan. Sidewalks were really what were highlighted from 4th and 5th graders and their grandparents. So just wanted to hop on the bike, go to town, get ice cream, go to the park and ride back.
Yeah, the Gilardi girl would use that sidewalk to go to work at Landing.
She's in fact, Ms. Gilardi is on our
Yeah, I was
transportation advisory commission
Mhm.
through the county and city, and it's her lived experience is rather interesting, and it offers great insight into providing a walkable community, which will add value.
Yes. So, you've relayed the information to us. There's no resolution that county commissioners need to make. Just that we acknowledge that, you've given it and, certainly is going to be a good enhancement, for the county as well as the city, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But I know that, if there's other things we need to talk about, I don't want you to get out of here before you tell people Mansfield Avenue, when are we gonna be done with that up there?
I think I'm.
I am not exactly sure just when yet, but we're getting closer. Every day is closer, certainly.
Okay,
We really ideally wanted to do that 2 years ago, but ran into a snag, and so we couldn't do that.
I think the problem that I get, and you got the fairgrounds and that.
Yeah, well, and that was that, yeah, it turned out that was it timed out that
Yeah, anyway.
we couldn't do it, but that culvert was in failure, and so we needed to address that, so.
yeah, you just need to have your engineer put weekly updates out there, cause I know it's been 2 weeks since I've heard anything
Yeah.
and so I know that we have people chomping at the bit as to what's going on next and, you know, keep them informed.
Yeah.
So,
Will do.
so if you can have, your engineer give us an update,
Okay,
appreciate that.
sounds good.
Yeah.
You know the sizes from the lowest to the largest in that next neighborhood.
I think
You mean square footage?
Mhm.
Well, I don't know that I know that.
I can tell, I think the townhomes are gonna be somewhere about 12 to 1,600 square feet. The patio homes a little bit larger, and then the single family homes. I don't know, I think that the 1 and 2 bedroom apartments will be standard. I would imagine they'll be close to what Rockford has put into place out there. So, yeah.
No tiny houses, no 500.
No. Interestingly, when I was talking with Highland Real Estate, the patio homes are the ones that go quickly,
Yeah.
and they generally go a little more expensively than the single family homes because they're so customizable. And
Good
so,
for seniors, good
Yeah.
for upset
Yeah.
mobility issues.
yeah, and I can tell you, the day that we broke ground in February, D.R. Horton was getting all kinds of calls in the first 24 hours.
Really?
Yeah. So, I don't know if that's new people or people living here already, probably a combination, but there's a lot of excitement in wanting to see that development come to.
Well, I know out by the radio station, that's full, I think, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, they started on the retreat at Mount Vernon is starting on their phase 2 and phase 3.
Yeah,
They've got a waiting list right now. All their apartments are rented.
yeah.
And
Grandson lives out there.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
What's he think?
He loves it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's him and another guy.
What's the work for?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's a fireman, so he's all in.
Yeah.
Yeah, he loves it out there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's been incredible to see. We always, data will tell you that like, oh, we need these, this, that, and the other, but then until somebody builds it to show proof of concept, you don't really know.
Right.
And to see that those were leasing faster than they can build them was pretty interesting.
yeah.
Good proof of concept to be able to get somebody else like the folks that live.
Well, there's some
across
pretty
it.
nice added amenities that go with that.
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful.
So,
It is beautiful.
And ownership strengthens the community,
Mhm.
getting people into the community and yes.
Yeah.
Prices coming down,
Work.
we're able to afford it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nice job,
Thank you
Stan.
for doing your role at
Thank
ADR.
you. Really appreciate it. Appreciate all of your support.
I'm gonna take him to get.
Tell us that. Say the same thing in 6 months.
I think I will. I think I will.
We'll see you later.
Mayor, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Sam, good to see you. I'll see you again, what, Thursday?
Thursday, Thursday.
So we do have at least 4 items,
Yeah, we do.
resolutions.
I'm gonna send this down to Penny, so the city did give us that letter and Bill signed to accept that letter, so I'll just give you that to enter into the record, we don't need a resolution, but to show that they did submit that to us, Penny, so I'll give you that information. Put it in there, all right, we have appoint Sam Filkins, as our rep for, Mid-Ohio Regional Planning and Central Ohio Rural Planning. This is just replacing Jeff Gotke, who is no longer with ADF. Before it was, I think, Jeff and then Sam was an alternate. So Sam's gonna hold off on the alternate until they kind of figure out how things shake out at ADF.
All right.
So he'll take Jeff's role as one of our reps on that, and then we'll come back later with an alternate. So that's ready for approval.
Big motion.
My motion to approve.
I second it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And then we also have appoint Dan Humphrey to as a volunteer to the Senior Levy Advisory Board, to assist the Board of Commissioners. So we had an individual go off and we had an
Yes.
opening, and I think Bill has reached out to Dan and he was interested, so we're ready to appoint him.
All the other ones will stay. Was this Julie who he was replacing?
Julie's still on the board, she's just not gonna chair it.
It was someone from Fredericktown.
Oh, well, yeah.
Talked
So
about.
he's gonna cover the Fredericktown area as well as I believe he's gonna chair.
Jim Wagner.
Chair board.
Yes.
So motion to approve?
Second.
And those favors say aye.
Aye.
And then we have approved the LPA Construction Inspection Services. This is with DLZ Ohio Inc. for the county engineers Howard Danville Road Bridge replacement. And this is for $78,370.
Motion to approve.
Second it?
And those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that will just require one signature. And then we have approved the bid and contract document set for the county engineers 2025 annual resurfacing with Smalls asphalt paving. And this is for $2,298,273.95.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And those in favor say aye. Aye.
And I'll pass these down in a second to sign, and just, we did have to add 2 items. And they don't need to vote on these. right?
No,
So this is just for Penny to enter in the record. We received 2 petitions for annexation from the village of Centerburg. One of them is the park down there that city or
They're really taking the park.
they're really taking the park. So
Okay.
they have sent this, and that'll be for 12.97 acres to be annexed into the village. And so all we're doing now is enter it in the record that we've received the petitions, so Penny can start working with them on the process of annexation.
And which annexation type is it?
That one is a very unusual one. Penny, did you write that one down?
Yeah, it's a municipality owned
Oh,
land
there it is, yeah.
annexation petition.
We haven't done
Okay.
one of those
No.
before.
Probably should have been done
That was a
years
pretty,
ago. but-
that's a pretty quick one though.
Yeah.
There's not
Yeah.
much to do on that one.
Mhm.
And then the second one, the petition for annexation is gonna be a type 2 expedited, 2.03 acres. And that's gonna be the AMVets is being annexed into Centerburg from Harry Township. So
I
That
thought
both
that
of
was in
those-
Centerburg.
they have submitted to us. And now the process, the clock starts once Penny enters them into the journal.
Okay, good.
Okay,
Okay,
so I just
thank you.
wanted you to be aware of those.
Yep.
And
I thought the
then,
AMVets was in Centerburg. I just told Penny, man, it's gotta be closed. Yeah.
and then just a couple, just brief things I have, not much for you today. The north entrance project, things are going still as scheduled. The steel stud walls are going up. The metal stud walls are going up yesterday, and they're working on that today. And then the next stage, they'll come in and actually do the final roof. Because you've probably seen water back there. That's because that's just, they haven't. They just have to.
So will they do the roof before they put the metal on the back of the building up above
Yes.
the roof?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, yeah. So that's going on. We do have the sheriff's office scheduled. Todd has that scheduled to reseal and strike the sheriff's office and that whole lane going down in the parking lot. We're hoping to do that Memorial Day weekend. We try to do those when there's 3 days with limited or less traffic, we hope. So that is scheduled barring the weather, and Todd's working with the sheriff because they'll have to do half the lane, half the parking lot. So that's going on. And then we have got some concepts, drawings for the west entrance,
Okay.
cover. Bill, we talked about that last year.
Yes.
It's in this year's capital plan to put a covered, I guess, I don't know what you want to call it.
An awning.
An awning.
Yeah.
But you're gonna do the complete knockout, aren't you? You're not just gonna
Yes,
try to do.
that's
the
what
door.
they designed, the complete knockout, and that, we're still working through proof of concept about exactly how it's gonna look. They're trying to pattern the way the front of the building looks or the side of the building. That's kind of the plan, and,
And it's gonna cover the button.
it'll go out far enough that the ADA button that's there, if somebody's in a wheelchair or mobility device and they come up, hit that, they'd be out of the rain, the snow, whatever, till the door swings open and they can get in. So we are working on that. Once we kind of settle the design, I'll let you look at it and then you can tweak the design as you want. But the company we reached out to was Midstate, who did the cupola.
Yes.
So they can kind of metal fabricate things and kind of do it the way we want it done. So that's where we're at on this, and that's all I've got for you today.
So you think of the clock tower.
Yeah. Yes.
So, Jen, do you have anything that we need to share?
No, just excited about all the events coming up this summer.
All right.
I have nothing, sir.
I did go to Brinkhaven last night and they're working on some items. I'm working with the our Knox County Convention Bureau as also as our Knox County Parks on doing some things. And so that was we met at a theater down there. I didn't know they had
I
a
didn't know
theater.
there's a theater.
I didn't know they had a theater. They invited people, residents from the Brinkhaven to come and listen to the ideas of what was going on. And they said they were going to have it at the theater, which is a place that used to be an auction house in Brinkhaven. So I determined that I was in that auction house about 68 years ago with my dad. And so my dad used to take me down there when I was like 4 to 6 years of age to go to they called it an auction, but you know, in today's world, it's a flea market. Yeah, and then I think that's all that I would simply share unless you would talk about yesterday's meeting.
Yeah, Commissioner Personal and I went and joined the fatherhood planning, I guess you would call it, Bill, wasn't that the name of it?
Mhm.
For the area, and they had several people from all walks of life there. trying to figure out how to get fathers to get involved, step up, be more active with their children. So it was a nice meeting. I think there's more to come. I mean, they took a lot of notes yesterday, so. But it was a good meeting.
Commissioner, just another note, next Tuesday,
Oh, yes.
we will not have session. It'll just be bills only. So we had a couple departments that were due to come in that had to reschedule, so there's really nothing on the agenda, so. We'll just not have a regular session, but we will sign bills that day.
And then this coming Thursday, we start at 10:30. Cause there's a land bank
Land
meeting
bank.
before that, so 10:30 will be our start on that Thursday. So with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
Second?
Okay, we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think